largest fish dock, costing $1.75 million, is to be opened by Sir Henry Betterton, chairman of the Unemployment Board. And aboard the new trawler Grimsby Town, Sir Henry sees the breaking of the tape which inaugurates the giant dock. Grimsby's Eat More Fish campaign has put hundreds more trawlers in commission.
May the opening of this dock mark the beginning of a new era of prosperity for you all. I declare it open and designate it number 3 fish dock.
In the old English fishing town of Grimsby, there's one word that those who run this port don't want to hear, and that's fishing.
We was promised the earth and nothing's been delivered on Brexit.
It's our hometown, isn't it? You've got to be proud of your hometown. There's a lot of good people around here.
The trawlers have gone, and in a movie that's showing locally, we see the desperation of 3 fishermen as they try to stop their way of life from disappearing.
Curly, where you going?
I'm going to go see Bar.
Well, he's not going to tell you the truth, is he? Listen to me. You're a nobody, just like me.
Look, we have to do something!
Curly, stop! Right? You've got your head buried in the sand, lad. Our industry has been dying for years. Just ask your old man. This is just the final nail in the coffin.
All right, so that's it then, is it? Huh? We just turn over and die? My old man says the glory days are coming back, and guess what? I believe him.
The papers are signed, son. I've seen it happen. We're just deadwood now. Just look after yourself. Hey, kid.
It is a fictional film. Sadly, it's also a true story. Because Grimsby is no longer what it was. It's recently been described by a lifestyle website as backward, cold, bitter and unfriendly, with people who are rude, cold and suspicious. And that's the polite stuff. This is something that the eastern coastal town has to endure. The butt of jokes.
It's got the word grim in the name, it doesn't do itself any favours.
The star of films that ridicule the inhabitants. And yet for many, it could be the suggestion of being backward that hurts the most.
But it's caused tension amongst people who do what you do.
Yeah, that's correct.
There may not be any trawlers going out from here anymore, yet they are looking to the future. But don't blame Brexit for what Grimsby has lost. It all went wrong in the 1970s, turning what was once the largest fishing port in the world into a town only processing catches from way beyond these shores and searching for a new identity. What were called the Cod Wars with Iceland sealed off forever rich fishing waters more than 2,000 kilometres to the north. It got nasty. And in the end, Britannia no longer ruled the waves. Today, as we discover, it is all about modernisation. The only large vessel tied up in port is one that serves offshore wind farms.
What we've been good at is diversifying the business and changing the way we operate, and this place is an example of that. This used to be part of the fish market and we changed and provided this facility for processing fish. So the whole area has changed, so we just had to move on.
And yet the cry at Brexit time was give us control back of our waters. That's hardly happened, has it? Because there are no boats going out of here, no fish being landed here from British waters.
Well, the interesting thing at the time with the debate is that the whole issue about fishing came very much to the forefront. And when you consider that the fish industry only represents something like 0.01 of GDP, so economically it doesn't mean a lot, but emotionally it carries a high value. And so it was used by the politicians as a method of getting to people to actually get them to vote in terms of Brexit, because we look after the fishermen. But the reality has been something different, where the industry's not been looked after at all.
What about those people here who decided that they wanted to vote for Brexit? Has it in any way hurt them leaving the European Union?
A lot of people in Grimsby voted to come out because they would have been influenced by the fishing and the heritage and the history, and they would have believed the rhetoric at the time about improving the fishing and bringing fishing back, and that was never going to happen, and it's not happened. And if anything, it's actually got worse, to the point where we're not landing any whitefish vessels to the auction at all. We land a few shellfish boats, but the main part of Grimsby is now processing, as you can see with this operation.
So fishing hasn't gone away in Grimsby. In a sense, there's a renaissance, it's just a different side of it?
Yeah, we've adapted to it, we've changed the facilities, we've provided different circumstances for people to operate. But what has definitely changed from Grimsby is it was the largest fishing port in the world, and so we've no vessels, and so that side of it has gone down. But the processing side, Grimsby is the largest processing centre probably in the Northern Hemisphere.
There will be a catch this week, but it's not fish, and it won't much benefit Grimsby. It's sold in another part of England. We're heading out on the Convallaria with Captain Steve Bratley. There's a reason he believes his hauls of crab and lobster are down, that modernisation is working against him.
It's all windmills. Each one of these is a windmill.
And while they've been building that, you've not been able to fish there because it's just too much trouble?
Yeah, you can't fish there while they're constructing it. And then once they say you can fish there, you can go in, but it's very dangerous to be putting strings and pots in there.
But you used to be able to go there?
Yeah, I used to be able to go there, and there's not just the one, there's lots of wind farms. There's another big wind farm. There's another one there. And all it does is people what fished here, when they're getting constructed, pushes them out, and then everyone's getting closer together, other boats fishing, so you're on top of each other, which then causes a bit of confrontation sometimes when you've got other people fishing on top of you. Some people don't get on with one another, and they'll chop your rope, chop your pots away, so you lose fishing gear. And you can fish in amongst them now, they're open to fishing. But if you've got two or three boats fishing in the same area and you're tangled up with them, and the tide, strong tide, it push you onto a windmill and smash your boat up, and then so it's not really worth going in there and trying to fight with somebody for it, if you know.
Have you had trouble?
I haven't been in the wind farms. I've stopped out of them to save that trouble. You do get trouble just in general with other boats, but then they've been pushed out of the wind farms because of the wind farms, so you all sort of on top of each other.
But what sort of things have happened to you with other boats?
Lost quite a few pots where they've just chopped them off. They've hauled my pots. I've had one boat haul my pots and empty them. Yeah, it all goes on. It's worse than being on land sometimes.
The lobster here, roughly £21 a kilo, that's what Steve gets for it. The crab, just over £2 a kilo. But on a 36-hour trip, which is how long they may well go out for, they can come back and get £2,000 to £3,000, but then there are all their costs on top of that. In the fish hall, it is just after 6 a.m. and cold, but the grammarians, as they call themselves, are warm and welcoming. No rudeness, except perhaps from us, when we unwittingly interrupt the auctioneer.
I didn't mean to put you off, I beg your pardon. Sorry everybody, carry on as normal.
Start off at 440.
The deals here are hardly small fry.
This is a small one. This is 57 kilos.
A halibut like this, at almost 60 kilos, could sell for more than $1,000.
Here we go, let's go.
Getting it to market, possibly abroad, can present issues. Yet those who tell us they voted for Brexit say it wasn't the wrong decision, just that Britain wasn't ready for the new rules. Mick Welburn has a way round this. He sells the fish he buys here to a Spanish firm based in Scotland, and then he doesn't have to deal with export regulations. It doesn't all go to foreign markets.
I mean, you've got to remember the fishing industry in this country is smaller than the lawnmower industry. So despite the fact that it was a big political thing, that's mostly sort of emotional.
Some fish make the short journey to this smokehouse.
This went in and was lit about 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and it's been smoking overnight. And you can tell it's got this sort of dry, kind of glossy sheen. The skin is dry, and that will be full of flavour.
"5 miles down the road, unsmoked haddock is ready for the table. It's the end of one particular journey.
So it's come from the fish market in Grimsby, and I'm going to have a hand, at least try, to help send it on its final journey. What do we do?
So first off, you have to make sure you've got bubbles in your batter, because that brings the spikeness. It doesn't bring you, a flat batter. You have to pop it in and make sure...
Can I do anything?
You can put another one in if you like.
Well, I could put that one in, can I?
It's how you put it in.
Okay.
So you have to drop it in skin down.
Yeah.
And then flick.
Flick.
Yep.
Was that all right?
Sort of. So you have to go, how you place it to make sure you get the spikes on the top in, and then flick it down, otherwise you'll burn yourself.
Okay, let's have one more go, if I may.
Yes, of course. There you go.
So you've got to get the whole thing covered in batter.
Yep, and it has to go skin down.
That is skin down.
Yep. Put it in and flick.
How was that?
Fine, that was perfect. So that was your first one.
Sort of perfect, anyway.
That was yours.
Yeah.
Which, for a first attempt for spikes, is brilliant. That's mine. And that's your last one, which worked out perfect. And that's how you get the spike crisp. You can't have your batter...
Oh, I see. That's how you get the bits that stick up.
You can't have it too thick, because otherwise it'll be like cake mix in the middle. Whereas you have to have your batter consistency correct to be able to get the spikeness.
So there is an art, and I am almost an artist.
This is then a story of reinvention, about fish processing, not fish catching. As the public relations person for the port tells us, rather tetchily, I'm sick of people banging on about fishing because Grimsby is not a fishing town.
Fair to say that you get rather fed up with people saying Grimsby is fishing.
Yeah, Grimsby's never just been about fishing, and it's always been about lots of different things. And these days, it's really exciting. It's at the cutting edge of the whole green economy. There's a lot of jobs based around the growing offshore wind economy here, and actually that's the real strength of the thing to come.
Tell me, as quickly as you can, what goes on here?
So, cars, offshore wind, fishing, coal, biomass, steel, containers, so retail and everything to do with medicine and food supplies, agriculture, construction, oil. That's probably a fairly good list to go through. Just about everything you can think of, really.
In fact, the wind turbines run from Grimsby belong to what they say is the world's largest offshore wind farm. Change. It may benefit many, but as we found out with our crab and lobster skipper, not everyone.
So not only have you lost fishing grounds, and then it's still difficult to go in there, but it's caused tension amongst people who do what you do.
Yeah, that's correct.
So don't dwell on fishing is the advice, but the heritage and the history are what they care about at the unveiling of this artwork in a part of the town that hopes to see change for the better as they redevelop, but has been witness, most recently, to decay.
I can remember buying my first suit in Burton's. We haven't got a shop like that now in the whole of the borough. We was promised the earth and nothing's been delivered on Brexit, and to be honest, I am so proud to be here today. This is potentially the highlight of my mayoral career. This is a stunning piece of artwork. And to be honest, it really celebrates our heritage. It celebrates everybody in this town, and I'm sure the people of Grimsby are over the moon to see this.
What is it about Grimsby then?
It's our hometown, isn't it? You've got to be proud of your hometown. Grimsby, part of it is the name Grim. People think it is Grim, but it ain't. There's good parts and there's bad parts of all towns and all cities. Unfortunately, people around here sometimes they drag it down, but they shouldn't drag it down. There's a lot of good people around here. They're not all bad people. And it's a good town. There's good parts of the town. You know, we should embrace the good part, not the bad part.
It's a desire to preserve community that leads this charity to offer free lunches to pensioners, many of whom worked in the industry when this really was a fishing town.
So we set it up from, it was some funding from DWP, and they sort of said we could run it once a week for pensioners in the local area, and they just come along, have a free 2-course meal, and it's just sort of a nice warm space for them as well. So if they can't, if they're struggling at home or can't afford it with the cost of living rising, we sort of offer a free space for them to come and enjoy some company.
And they make friends.
Yes, they've made lots of friends.
What do you see on their faces?
Smiles. Just smiles. They've made friends since they've been here. I know they've got together since obviously the pensioners' lunch as well. And even when we haven't had the funded spaces for them, they've been happy to come along and said, oh, can we pay for a session and come and sit with them as well? So it's nice.
Martin was a trawler skipper. He brings together those he calls old sea dogs to keep the history alive.
It's this sort of thing, isn't it, that builds a brotherhood of fishermen.
Oh yeah. Out at sea, fishing, there is no qualms about it. We're all one big family that sail on the sea. And if one of us at any ship at any time is in trouble and the message goes out, we all immediately respond to it. And if we can, we go to each other and things like that, you know.
And is that why you all stick together? You have this reunion with all your old mates?
Oh, definitely, yeah, because that feeling of camaraderie is still there. Even I'm friends with people in Belgium. I've sailed out of Belgium. I'm still in contact with a few of them. Denmark, lots and lots of Danish friends. We're still in contact. And they are now trying to do similar things to us. They're getting the old fishing communities together because they've been decimated, as you know. There's nothing left of any of them. Very, very few left. But the fishing people are still about. The families are still around. And the families are starting to build that camaraderie back together again to stop the isolation.
By coincidence, we've met Leslie Kurz outside a cinema showing that trawlerman's movie, 3-Day Millionaire, about what happens when the old has to go and the new isn't to everyone's liking.
Most people in this town, well, most people, was obviously employed by the fishing, the boats, Down Dock. I mean, if you've seen Down Dock now, it's nothing to what it used to be. It was a hive of, you know, busyness. And fish merchants got made very, very rich, still rich today.
Boat skippers too?
Oh, absolutely. Boat skippers, very rich in the day, yes.
And your dad, what did he make of it now that all the fish comes from Iceland and none of it from round here?
When the Cod Wars, he was on News at 10. He actually rammed a gunboat. Full steam ahead and rammed the gunboat. And he was on News at 10. Like I say, that's still in the archives. So, yeah, quite a character, the old dad.
Is he sad about what's happened to his town?
Oh, absolutely. It's not what it used to be. You know, Freeman Street used to be the place to go drinking, and it's just sad now how it's all turned out.
The glory days are coming back.
Showing locally, 3-Day Millionaire bills itself as a raucous black comedy. But it may be hard to see the funny side in real life.
You just go out and catch fish and get paid, but I see what's going on through the books.
You, proper little management, Fair play to you. Fair play. You know me, I deserve it.
Kelly, wait! Kelly! Kelly, wait!
Do you know what? I'm fine, Kelly, all right? Just go back inside.
Just stop bloody talking for a minute, will you? doing this. Just give me a minute, all right? All that stuff in there, yeah, that's just my job. That's all it is.
Yeah, and that's mine as it goes.
Okay, fine. But they're just our jobs, is what I'm saying.
Jack Spring is the director, and he has strong links to this town.
Were you trying to make a film about despair or hope?
Hope. And change.
And what was the hope?
Hope for a new identity. I think Grimsby has struggled because for the last 30, 40 years it's held on to its former identity that's probably held it back from rediscovering its new one. And it's probably the story of almost any ex-industrial northern town that at some point had its industry pulled and struggled to re-find its new, essentially its, not just its industry but its identity, what it can kind of hang its flag on. Grimsby's done that now. It's got the renewable energy, that's its biggest employer in the town, and it's got everything, a load of big companies across that sector are coming to Grimsby and setting up base here. And I think that's important for the town because it just gives it a new sense of life, that's probably been missing since the industry died in the back end of the 70s.
Is it also about the despair and the foolishness of people such as those we're seeing on the screen right now, trying to hold on to things that they've got to let go of?
I don't think it's foolishness, it's definitely not. It's that balance of pride of where you're from and the multi-generational, even now, everyone that's from Grimsby at some point in their family chain probably had someone that worked in the fishing industry, whether that was on the trawlers or backpacking the fish or at the dock. And the film's really about being proud of that, but not letting that get in the way of what's next for the town, which I think has probably been the case for a little while. I think the one thing that the film comments on, and one thing that Grimsby has so far pretty much avoided quite well, especially around the dock area, what we don't want is these big kind of out-of-town, massive, coffee chains or retail outlets coming to town and bulldozing, the history and the buildings and really replacing that sense of identity with big corporate, concrete, kind of out-of-town, international companies ruining, the place. And Grimsby's kind of avoided that to an extent.
Why do you think it's had a bad rap in the past?
I think it's mainly down to just the lazy assumption of what Grimsby is. Grimsby's at the end of the line in many, it's not a place you pass through unless you kind of come in here, right? It's geography, and it's quite far away from any other kind of big city, and so it's an easy place to take a lazy swipe at because not a lot of people have had the opportunity or privilege to actually come here and spend time here, and if you're from out of town, really understand what the town is about. And it's an easy target, but I think that'll change. It's going to be the next kind of Liverpool or Hull, that had this very proud industry that has kind of reformed its PR image, and that's already happening. And I hope the film helps that. I'm sure it will. And we're just a small part of energy trying to kind of incite some change on a kind of public opinion of the town.
There are shifting dynamics here, unsettling to some, and most of the changes were set in motion long before one particular vote in 2016.
Brexit definitely didn't help, but there have been many, many obstacles that they've tried to overcome in the last 50 or 60 years, and they didn't always manage to do that. Only the years to come will tell if this place can completely reinvent itself and be as successful as it was 100 years ago. And that really matters to those who want to continue calling this area their home.